What's going on, my friends, and welcome into the All Nittany Lion podcast here on PHLY. Thank you so much for hanging out with us each and every Tuesday at 4 p.m. It's myself, Tyler Zulli, Adam Taliaferro, Jason Cabinda. Guys, deep breath, right? Deep sigh of relief. You could say battle-tested, survive in advance, whatever kind of cliche you want to use in the sports world to talk about how this one happened. A 34-27 victory for Penn State over MAC opponent Bowling Green. Deep sigh of relief was kind of what happened for me when that final whistle blew. Guys, first and foremost, good to be back with you again. And how you feeling after that 34-27 victory?
I'll say this: we were all holding our breath to about 5 minutes left in that fourth quarter, man. Definitely wasn't necessarily, what we expected, but at the end of the day, we got the dub. We know there's some other teams, aka Notre Dame, that didn't escape with a dub, which could, at the end of the year, impact where they stand in a great way. So luckily, we're not in that position. Obviously, I'm sure everyone in the building doesn't feel like we played up to our standards or things of that nature. I honestly thought the offense played pretty well. I feel like if anything, we stopped ourselves, whether it was penalties, silly mistakes, things of that nature. But I didn't feel like they could stop us on offense. And then on defense, I kind of felt like we got schemed up a bit. I thought Bowling Green had a really good game plan. And, at the end of the day, like that quarterback, that's a guy that's been at Missouri. He's been at Indiana. He's no slouch. Number 0 was killing us in the beginning. It really throughout that game, I think he ended up having over 100 yards receiving. That's a damn good tight end. So, they had a good game plan. He was getting the ball out of his hands really fast, not allowing the rush to get to him. Danny Dennis Sutton and Abdul Carter weren't able to get to the quarterback much because he was getting that ball out below 2.5 seconds on most pass plays. So at the end of the day, we escaped with the dub. No harm, no foul. I think it's just one you got to kind of flush away, reset. Great timing to have a bye week. Let's get back to the fundamentals. Let's get back to some good on good, increase the standard, get back to playing at the level we know we're capable of playing at.
Yep, Jason, I couldn't agree with you more, man. And Coach Franklin will be the first one, all of us who played, wins are hard to come by.
Yep.
People that watch football, sometimes you see another opponent, you just assume it's going to be a walk in the park. And these guys got pride too. As we spoke about last week, these players are coming to Happy Valley, coming to Beaver Stadium, playing in front of more fans than they've ever played in front of in their life. And they're hyped. They're ready to go. And I think one point that Jason mentioned last week that we saw in this game is that in between the trenches, there's sometimes a difference. But the skill position players, they all, there's not a lot of difference from that level to, you're talking about at the FBS level. And they made plays. Penn State, I don't think played bad. Bowling Green, I think we're going to find out as the year goes on that Bowling Green is a good team. They're going to win some games in their conference. They may win their conference. So as we all say, it was a great lesson for Penn State saying, hey, we saw some things that we got to work on. But the thing that I really liked is that there was no panic amongst the team. I don't think I saw any. I don't think Drew was trying to do too much. Everyone stayed within the game plan. They stayed the course, and ultimately they came out with the win.
So it seems to me that I think the three of us are kind of in lockstep that kind of the greater picture is not – there are things that we can pinpoint, and we're going to talk about like what you clean up during a bye week throughout the show. But it seems to me like the overarching greater picture of this is not necessarily that Penn State played poorly. I think some things to clean up, but I think that maybe the greater picture is that Bowling Green played well. And it was, I think it's frustrating for fans. You see nominally, you see Bowling Green, you see a MAC school. We talked about this last week. Like, there's no disrespect in any given Saturday as a difficult opponent. But the one guy, Jason, that you brought up that I definitely wanted to get into at some point today was Harold Fannin Jr.
Yeah, that was 0, right? That tight end for Bowling Green.
11 catches, 137 yards, a touchdown. Anthony, what was I about to say? Anthony. My goodness, my mind just. You guys ever got your mind just go blank for a second?
Happens.
Yeah, I don't know what I was coming up with a different name. Connor is his name, Connor Basilick. I don't know where Anthony came from. The quarterback for Bowling Green. Really kind of set a tone early, like you said. He was getting the ball out quickly. He was finding his safety valve. And then to me, I thought what was maybe the most impressive thing from Bowling Green's offensive unit was their offensive line. I thought they got a lot of push in the first half. It's a front four we've talked about with a lot of talent. It's a front seven that's really athletic, really aggressive, flies to the football. I thought their offensive line did a really nice job of getting a lot of push in that first half.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's often a forgotten component, the in between the trenches. And if you can get a push, I can't run, but if there's a hole, I can walk through a hole. And I tell people all the time, if you got some holes that you can make some way in, that's a strong point for you. But another aspect that I think about is that we've got two new coordinators. We've got a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator, both very seasoned, both great additions to the Penn State staff. But we got to realize, in college football, there's no preseason. So that, we came out strong last week, but I'm sure guys are still getting used to playing with each other. They're still learning the scheme. So again, I remember I played under Paterno. In preseason, we rarely went ones versus ones. It was always ones versus twos. I'm sure, Jason, you can speak to what Franklin did, but when we get out there and those live bullets start coming, anything can happen. So I tell anyone that was willing to listen, any Penn State fans is, give this team some time to grow. This is a growing experience that they just went through. And ultimately we came out, I just can't, and we'll say it many times throughout this podcast today, they came out with a win.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I also felt like tackling was still a bit of an issue in this game. I'd mentioned that in week 1 about tackling coming out of training camp. You're doing a lot of thud periods. You're not going live all the time, and how that transitions into game tempo and game speed, and having to kind of, bring yourself up to that level and knowing that you're going live and stuff of that nature. I feel like there's some tackles that got away from us. From an effort standpoint and a pursuit standpoint, I feel like that's where we're eliminating, some of the runs that really could turn into worse runs. Is at least everybody's coming to the ball. So that first guy's missing that tackle, we have a second, a third, a fourth guy right there to clean things up. And that's kind of been helpful. But I mean, we were gashed in the run game some. I felt like in the first half, we rotated a ton of guys on the D-line. So you have to factor that in terms of just getting into the flow of the game, striking keys, things of that nature for the D-line. And then we ran a ton of man. In that first half. And I felt like we kind of looked at that West Virginia game, was like, okay, we covered these guys up pretty well going man a majority of the game, and it didn't fully translate to that Bowling Green game kind of the way we thought it would. Now, I thought Coach Allen made some great adjustments in that second half. We played a lot more zone in the second half than we did in that first half, but I do feel like those gashes in the beginning and lack of perfect man-to-man coverage and getting PBUs and not getting picks and stuff of that nature may have got us a little panicky. It just felt like we were on our heels a lot in that first half, and the way those drives were coming and the way they were moving the ball down the field.
Yeah, it was they were just chipping away. Like every third guy, third or four, third or five, we're gonna get off the field, and then there's quarterback getting the ball out of his hands quick, and they're just picking up these first downs. And like you said, it wasn't. They had some plays where they're gashing us, but for the most part, they were just chipping, and I give my hats off to them. They played a great game, and they had a solid game plan coming in.
And I think that's another thing, we have to realize, we're Penn State. When people are coming to Beaver Stadium to play us, that's their freaking Super Bowl. So I think there's also a level of maturity that the team has to have of knowing that, hey, every single team that comes into our house, we're going to get their best freaking shot every time. So we don't have the room to come out slow. We don't have the room to not be setting the tone and things of that nature, because Ohio State, a Michigan, a Washington, a USC, they're going to take advantage of that lackluster, that kind of grogginess in the first couple quarters or first couple drives. They're going to take advantage of that. And we could find ourselves in trouble down early in games, and that's not where we want to live at. So, like I said, I think this bye week is coming at the perfect time. I think they're going to be able to hit a really hard reset with Coach Franklin. He's going to have their mentality right. He's going to have everything right. I expect it to be not as much of a very restful bye week as more so getting bonus practices, getting a lot of good on good work, a lot of ones versus ones work to kind of increase the standard and kind of increase the level at which we're playing at. And at the end of the day, we have another game that's similar to this one in Kent State next week. And I think that'll be the perfect time to kind of do what we all feel like Penn State should have done this week. And I think when they come out and do that next week, that'll be the perfect confidence that they'll have going into our Big Ten schedule.
You know, you guys talk about the like that getting your best, and you know, it's kind of a Super Bowl for some of these teams. And NIU's coach talked about it after the win against Notre Dame. And I know we're going to talk about all of the, you know, close or near upset games throughout the top 25. But NIU's coach talked about it after their game, and he said, we had to survive like the first 5 minutes. And he goes, we almost didn't, right? Because I think they had an opening kick where the return man let the ball bounce, and then they had to kind of scramble and fall on it. And it turned into they ended up not turning the ball over, but it was a near turnover on an opening kick that could have kind of set the tone for allowing the bad to creep in. And Bowling Green didn't seem to have that. And Jason, you brought up Baszler playing at other schools and playing in the SEC and playing in the Big Ten before. And we talked about Fannin and how, you know, he's probably NFL bound at some point in his career. It didn't seem like they had a bright lights, sights and sounds all of Beaver Stadium. And to me, that's an incredible credit to a coaching staff. It's incredible credit to a leadership group, your upperclassmen, who basically come in and say, listen, this is a good football team. It's a crazy environment. We know what it's like when 108,000 are packed in Beaver Stadium, but we survive, right? If we either, you know, put the foot on the gas quickly, or we survive the first barrage of a mistake or a penalty or a turnover, we're going to be in this game. And Bowling Green went right down the field, 6 plays, 75 yards. And I think a lot of Penn State fans were almost in disbelief that it happened as efficiently as it did. So that's why I think we all sit here and I don't think it's making excuses. I just think it's giving credit where credit is due to a team that clearly was prepared to play this game.
I'd agree.
I mean, go ahead, Chase.
No, I was really just agreeing wholeheartedly. Like, they were prepared straight up. And, you know, we talk about the competition of the FCS level compared to FBS level and how there's not a huge difference. We talk about it just being in the trenches. And, I mean, they just showed up. At the end of the day, we did what we needed to do, and we got a dub. And like I said, I think this is one that we're just going to close the door on, leave in the past, be happy that we got the dub, and okay, we know we need to work on going into the bye week. I mean, there's not much to say about it.
Yeah, and people sometimes forget, you know, football players are human. You know, we react just like regular humans do. So if you're out there playing and you see some success, you know, Bowling Green, they went down the field first 2 drives. You're like, you know what? You can play with these guys. And and then you just build that confidence, you know, series by series before you know, you're like, hey, this is Penn State, but we clearly can play with these guys. And that confidence just continues to build throughout the game. And the one, you know, looking back at the game, there was, I think it was right before the end of the second half, where Caden, you know, muffed the punt and the ball thankfully went out of bounds. But I was just thinking, you know, if he fumbles that and Bowling Green picks up, you know, gets that and then scores before the end of the half, this could have been a different game.
Could have been scary. Yeah, that's when it could have been scary.
So, Jason, I'm going to apologize for bringing this game up, but I promise there's a reason I bring it up. It's not just to open wounds. The 2015 game against Temple. After the game, I'm sorry. I promise there's a reason.
God. Honestly, that might be my worst performance in my Penn State career.
I swear to you, there's a reason I bring this up, and I can't remember exactly which of your teammates it was. Maybe you can help me out. But I know it was one of the guys in the cornerback room. It may have been Grant Haley, but I can't quite remember who it was. Basically said, we buried the tape, and I don't know if it was metaphorical or if it was physically.
Jordan Lucas, yeah,
shovel
Jordan
I was Jordan Lucas. Okay.
No, we
And I don't know,
literally buried that tape.
literally buried that tape.
Yeah, we came in that next, what was it? We either came in on Sunday or Monday or whatever it was. All watched it as a defense together, talked about it, hashed out what we needed to hash out, what we felt needed wrong. And like that's what leaders do. Like when you have a player-led team like that, man, those are the best teams that you can play on. The type of teams where something goes wrong at practice and you don't need coach to blow the whistle to run the play again. When you have guys that are on the field saying, "Hey, coach, like we need that one more time. Like that wasn't good enough. That wasn't to our standard. Like I personally need to see it because I feel like that's going to be good for my development coming into this week for this game." When you have players like that, and we had those type of players, that's when you can have the best teams you can have because the standard isn't just upheld by the coaching staff or by somebody upstairs. It's upheld right there on the field between each other as players. And that's when you got it right. And I think that's what's so special about Penn State is because the standard and the culture is so known, and those are the kind of players that we bring in, the kind of recruits that we bring in, high character guys. And that's what we did. We went, watched it, hashed it out, talked about it, flushed it. And that's what we told the media the next day. It was like, we literally took the tape, we buried it, and we knew that that's not who we wanted to be.
And so the reason I bring that up and that story up specifically is for anybody that's panicking about a 7-point win over a MAC team, I think that you don't have to have a bury the tape moment, like an internal, monologue within your team to say, this was a performance that we want to forget. You won the football game. There was a lot to like, especially on the offensive side of things, and the defense in the second half, which we'll get to. So I'm sorry to bring up those past memories, but the reason I did was to say this game, ugly at times, but was far from a disaster cry for this team.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Adam.
I would challenge anyone who's worried right now. If you just look at the box score, you say, "Oh wow, I'm nervous." But just go back and watch the game. If you watch the game, you will see there was a lot of good things. Look at the stats. Look at what our running backs did this past game. We had 2 guys go over 100 yards. I mean, and again, I know we'll talk about it as we go deeper into this, but there was a lot of good that I thought came out of this game as well.
Yeah, a lot to get into. We will break it down, both offensive and defense. We'll talk about what's going on throughout the course of college football because it was kind of a weird week, guys, for near upsets, some actual upsets. We'll talk all about that, and we'll get you set for the Kent State game in 2 weeks. But before we do that, got to pay some bills. Let me tell you about our friends over at Shady Rays because over 300,000 people have rated this a 5-star product because the shades have durable frames and are crystal clear optically, which makes it the perfect choice for any of your outdoor activities, including, we all know this, guys, sometimes when you're at Beaver Stadium, there's nowhere to hide from the rays of the sun. There's not a lot of awnings, not a lot of shade, and you need your Shady Rays sunglasses when you're at the next game, which is Kent State in just 2 weeks. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you are bound to find the perfect pair that matches your style, whether you want to get the polarized lenses or you want a certain style of shade or lens or whatever color combination you want on your Shady Rays. You can't go wrong with 300,000 5-star reviewed customers. I wear my Shady Rays actively all the time because I told you this before, I struggle with headaches and they help so much with glare and light. And, when I'm driving, especially in the heat and the sun in the summer, my Shady Rays help me so much. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays right now is giving out their best deal of the season. If you head to shadyrays.com and use the code PHLY, you'll get 35% off your polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself today the shades that are rated 5 stars by over 30,000 people. And while we're at it, let me tell you about our friends over at Rite Aid because it is fall allergy season. You don't want to be caught having to stay indoors because you're struggling with outdoor allergies. The fall is starting to roll in, cooler temperatures. You want to do your fall activities, whether it's getting to a football game or you want to do the pumpkin or the apple the orchards and picking and things like that. You want to go on the hay rides. You want whatever fall activities you look to do. You don't want to be left indoors because of your fall allergies. We know the major culprits are pet dander and fur, mold, other allergens come out in the form of plants such as sagebrush. And you don't want to have to be stuck while your friends or your family are doing some awesome fall time activities because you are struggling with your fall allergies. So sign up for Rite Aid Rewards emails at riteaid.com to receive email pollen alerts in your area. Some ways that you can help yourself during the fall allergy season is use a dehumidifier, especially when you're sleeping at night. Check your pollen counts before you go outside. And I know you want to open up those windows because it's time to turn off the air conditioner. The nights are getting cooler. It's always much more relaxing to sleep with your windows open. But if you're struggling with your fall allergies, stick with the AC just a little bit longer to help you get into the November months. If you still don't have enough relief after all that, ask a Rite Aid pharmacist if you have different types of allergy medications. You can always talk to your Rite Aid pharmacist for recommendations on ways to get relief during this fall season. So head on over to Rite Aid, get all of your allergy relief that you need right in a couple easy steps. Guys, the defense. Let's go to the defense. We started offense last week. Let's start with the defense this week. James Franklin talked after the game today or on Saturday in his post-game press conference, and he was talking about kind of getting Bowling Green off their schedule. In the first half, it seemed like they were really disruptive on first down. The second half, obviously, they only give up 6 yards of total offense in the third quarter. But he said that they, created second and long, third and long situations. They kept themselves ahead of the sticks, where the first half they really they weren't. And first half drives, our first down drives in the first half, they gave up yardage of 30, 29, 6. They also had a second down play of 16. Penn State had a 15-yard PI penalty on first down in the first half. And then it seemed like in the second half, they really ramped it up defensively. Jason, you brought up playing a little bit more zone in the second half. Like I said, they only gave up 6 total yards in the third quarter. But real quick, guys, here's the first down plays of the second half for Bowling Green. -1 yard, 0, 0, 0, 0, 14. The outlier, the 14, led to their only points of the second half, the field goal late in the fourth quarter. Penn State's defense did a really nice job of setting the tempo, especially on, turning first down into second down in the second half of this one.
Yeah, like I said, I thought in that first half they were really on their heels a lot. I think when you go against this type of opponent, you're expecting your defense, especially it being the strength of our team, you're expecting the defense to kind of have splash plays. And those splash plays didn't really come. Like you said, they were getting ahead of the sticks, first down, second down, creating third and shorts, creating more easy situations to overcome as an offense. I thought that in the first half, we also had some penalties that hurt us some, a couple of offsides. We had a DPI, like you mentioned, things of that nature. And those type of things can really be drive killers as well. So I just thought it took a while to get our heels dug in. Although I will say I did have a couple players that I thought played really well, and that was Zane Durant and Tony Rojas. I thought Tony played really his best game that I've seen him play in the blue and white. He was super instinctive. He was all over the field. He was giving energy, making plays, had a turnover with that pick. So I thought that was really good. And I can see Tony really growing as a linebacker. And I'm really thinking that he's going to continue that growth moving forward. And then in the second half, we made adjustments, like you said, that third quarter. And at the end of the day, the best part about it, even though it wasn't the prettiest performance, is in the time during the game where we really needed stops, we got stops. And at the end of the day, that's what you need. When those gotta have it moments happen and you end up getting it, you end up doing what you're supposed to do, that's how you win football games. So as much as we want to cry and scream that, Bowling Green shouldn't be able to this, shouldn't be able to that, at the times in the game where we needed to do what we were supposed to do, we did them. And that's why we came out of the dub at the end of the day, is that the defense did they were supposed to do. So that was at the very least really good to see.
It's always that bend but don't break.
Yeah,
we bent a little bit, but as Jason mentioned, we never broke. And I could not agree more with Tony Rojas. I'm watching him, man. And as a former DB, there were so many times he was out there in coverage. There was a play, I think it was early in the first half. They ran a halfback option, a halfback, threw the ball down the field. And Tony Rojas,
the double pass. Yep.
Yeah,
that was a dime.
Yes, it was on the dime.
Money.
It was on the money. And I go back to, momentum killers. Bowling Green was moving the ball again in the second half, and then Rojas comes up with that interception, and I think changed the complexion of the game right there. And as we spoke about earlier, the defensive line started to get a little bit more pressure. You saw Abdul make a couple plays, knock down a couple passes. But the big thing is, as Jason mentioned, we made plays when we needed them. And I was looking at a couple stats that I was not even aware of, but they said it's been almost 3 years since Penn State defense has allowed an opening drive touchdown.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a missed but I was like, that's unbelievable. And last year, Penn State's defense didn't allow more than 24 points to anyone, except for the bowl game where we had a bunch of guys opt out. But Bowling Green scored 24 in the first half, and we had nobody score over 24 last year. And for the defense to make those adjustments, to come back out, not get rattled, kudos to Tom Allen and the entire team, because that game could have really went left in the second half. Because if you look at the beginning of the second half, Penn State went 3 and out. And if Bowling Green gets the ball, comes back and scores, then I think we have a different game. So defense really held it together and held things down when we needed them most.
Yeah, and I think that was the best part of the maturity of this team that I saw, was just the fact that I felt like we were really playing complementary football from a standpoint of like, in football, man, if the defense isn't playing well, the offense has got to, or the special teams has got to come up and make a few big plays that's going to make it easier for the defense. And at least when the defense wasn't making the stops we felt like they were going to make, the offense came out and was not missing a beat. They were coming up, driving the ball all the way down the field, scoring, driving the ball all the way down the field, scoring, field goal here. So there wasn't ever that point during the game where the defense wasn't playing well and then the offense was getting the ball and they were just stalling out. We were like, uh-oh, like this could turn into Bowling Green might start dominating us. It was always back and forth. It was never as if we were just taking punches and just couldn't do anything. So I think that just talks to the maturity of the team and to the offense, because when you have a strength of your team that's not playing well, that can be very demoralizing. Because when you're expecting that to be your strength and they don't do what they're supposed to do, it can at points make you feel like, oh man, if the defense isn't doing that, like, what if we're not going to be up to par as an offense? And you could tell as an offense, they took that assignment and absolutely ran with it from the get-go. So I thought that was a really mature thing to see from our team.
So guys, we were talking about when you're able to step up and make the big defensive play. I'm curious because we were talking about, setting the tone on first down, creating second and long, third and long. What to you guys defensively do you view as like staying ahead of the sticks on, making first down, second down? Because to me, like when I think about 2nd and 8 or 2nd and 7, that allows you to kind of, you get to be able to get after the quarterback a little bit more. It kind of forces you into, I don't want to say a definitive passing situation on second down, but it kind of makes it a pseudo passing down on second down. For you guys, what is kind of that mindset as a defensive player? Like what's the marker or the type of play on first down you're looking for to stay ahead of the sticks?
Really, you're looking for a 0-yard gain or a negative gain. Even a 2nd and 7 for an offense, that's still staying on schedule. Because if you get another run, another 3 yards, now you're 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. That's exactly where you want to be as an offense. So if off of rip, you can make that first down almost not count because it's 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9, 2nd and 12. That's where you're going to thrive. That's where you can start to take chances. That's when you can really blitz and do things of that nature. So from a standpoint of staying on schedule, I think what you need in drives or at the beginning of downs are negative or no yard gains in the run game to kind of help force the offense's hands. Because that's where you set up, okay, like you said, if it's a 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9, now you're in a pass first situation. Well, now if you get an incomplete pass on that down, now you're looking at 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, and that's just not where you want to live at as an offense. You want to live in 3rd and short as an offense, as your best case scenario, and be able to have the option to both run or pass unless you're absolutely dying all in on a draw play or on a screen play that you feel like is really going to hit. And you saw them test us a bit on the outside with those screen plays to the outside trying to stretch us. And I thought our DBs really did a good job in that aspect of the game of keeping the ball inside and letting the pursuit get to the ball and not allowing those to be big plays.
Yeah, and I think everything that Jason just said, and the one thing that's great about playing in Beaver Stadium is when you get behind the sticks, when it's 3rd and 10, 2nd and 12, when that crowd starts going, that causes problems. As you saw in that third quarter, Bowling Green had to call a couple timeouts when that crowd started getting loud, because you can't prep for that in practice. I don't care what type of speakers you got in practice, whatever it is. It's a whole different dynamic when that crowd starts going, and people don't realize until you're actually in that stadium, when you're on that field, and things are getting a little crazy out there. That's an awesome advantage to have. And I say that doesn't happen when it's 2nd and 2 or 3rd and 1. But when you have those 3rd and long, 2nd and longs, that crowd starts going. That's when you really pin your ears back and let it go.
Yeah. The one that I always go back to, and I know that it's become a social media like darling clip, is the whiteout game against Michigan. First snap of the game, Cade McNamara comes out, sicko mode's playing. It's just loud, it's raucous, and you got to burn a timeout before the first snap of the game, because you can't get your cadences off. You're looking to you're trying to avoid 1st and 15 on the first snap of the game. But I think that's one thing I can contribute to this conversation as a fan, and having been in the stands. It's deafening at times, even just as a fan, where you are shoulder to shoulder, especially, in the student section, especially for a game or a series like you guys mentioned that is kind of building in intensity. You're shoulder to shoulder with your peers. It can become a really raucous atmosphere for being in the stands. So I can't imagine being on the field is a whole heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think that's what I love about Beaver Stadium, man, is like our fans know that they can be a weapon in the game. Like you go to the Big House, you go to Ohio State's stadium, like the fans there, they go to the game, but they go to the game to watch the game. Like our fans go to the game to be a part of the game. And I think that's what's amazing about our fans. It's like they realize the power that they have and the power that Beaver Stadium has that can really is what really makes it a home field advantage for us, because they really truly do give opposing offenses problems. And I think that's the best thing about, our culture and what makes playing at Beaver Stadium so special is like the fans don't come to watch the show, like they come to be the show. And that's an amazing thing to have, man.
So the reason I bring that up and that paired with the question about, down and distances on first down specifically, Bowling Green was 5 of 7 on 3rd down in the first half. And just some of the numbers, it was 3rd and 6 on the first drive. They picked up 6, picked up the first down, ended up scoring a touchdown. The second drive, 3rd and 3, there ends up being one of the pass interference penalties early in the game for Penn State, but they pick it up. They go from the 39 to the 24. They pick that up. They convert. They end up scoring 3 on that drive. The third scoring drive, they score a touchdown. 3rd and 4, they pick up 6. They end up scoring a touchdown. 3rd and 14, right at the end of the first quarter, they pick up 15, passing touchdown to Malcolm Johnson Jr. So, the reason I ask about the down and distance thing and about the tone is they seem to do a really, really nice job when it was 3rd and short, 3rd and medium of, and sometimes it was need 6, get 6, and sometimes it was 3rd and 14 and you pick up 15 and you score. They seem to do a really nice job when it was 3rd and short and 3rd and medium, and struggled much more, as we kind of expected, when it becomes into that 3rd and long territory.
Yeah, because at the very least, when you have 3rd and medium and 3rd and short, like even if you're doing some of your like basic concepts, for the most part, you always have answers. When you're in 3rd and long, you may have like your 1 and 2 read as a quarterback are probably going to be reads that can get you that first down. But once you get to your 3rd and your 4th option and your progression, now they become the type of plays where it's like, yeah, they might be a dink and a dunk, but now that guy who gets the ball as a 3rd or 4th option, now he's got to make a guy miss and he's got to get the rest. And when you can put guys in that position where on the catch, they're not already past the sticks and they got to make a move, they got to make a miss, or they got to break a tackle in order to get the first, that's when you can succeed as a defense. When you're in 3rd and 4, 3rd and 6, I mean, you could just catch shallow routes all day and already be at the sticks converting a first down. When you're 3rd and long, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 10, now you're hitting curl routes. Now you need a dagger. Now you need corner route, so you need deeper routes in order to get there. So I think that's kind of the nuance and the differences between it being 3rd and short and medium to 3rd and long.
Yeah, and Tyler, I kind of equated to, I know you're a baseball guy. I'm starting to become a baseball guy, but it's like, when a pitcher is going through the lineup, when the pitcher's going through that lineup the first couple times, they may be striking people out, but after the 3rd or 4th time of you seeing that pitcher, you start to pick up on some of the tendencies. You start to say, oh, I think I've seen this formation before. I think, so I feel like as a defense, gets to experience a few series with the offense, they're on their heels a little bit. But once you kind of see what's going on, you get to lock in a little bit in the your coordinators and your position coaches start to see stuff on the field. That's when, once, the 4th drive, 5th drive, that's when you're really, I kind of know what's going on here. And there are some great teams where you just, it's coming. You just can't stop it. But for a Penn State defense that's full of athletes, once they get a look at something, I think that really helps them hunker down, in that second half. And I saw, that really happened if you look at, statistical differences from the first half to the second half.
Adam, we'll make you a baseball nerd yet. Don't worry. Slowly but surely. So real quickly before we move on, I have to ask my I play Madden, schematic question, and the question more or less is like, anytime you get into that situation of that 3rd and short, 3rd and medium, it feels to me like like mesh concepts seem to work really, really well. Does that translate to the highest levels of FBS, football, of the professional level? Are there certain concepts that, like, when you get to that yardage marker where you're kind of just looking to move the chains, that are just kind of more equipped to be first down getters than others?
Yeah, 100%. And at the end of the day, obviously, it's going to depend on the coverage. You want to run mesh concepts against man. You want to run rubbing type routes against man, because we're literally trained as the route runners to run mesh. You're literally trained as the mesh guy to kind of give a jab step in the way of the guy who's covering the other mesh guy who's crossing with you. So that's supposed to put that other guy who's defending him a kind of a step behind and give him just enough to be able to catch the ball and get upfield. And then the cool thing about mesh is, like, okay, let's say they end up sitting back in zone. Okay, well, now instead of your mesh runners running all the way to the sideline, now they go like just outside the hash and they hunker down and sit. So now they're sitting in spots, and you train, and these are kind of progressions of the offense that you get to. Sometimes you might install it this way during training camp. Sometimes it's more of a progression that you install as the season goes on. But then as you start to be able to get so good at mesh, then once you get it against zone, instead of continuing to run to the sideline, you're just running right into defenders that are already covering those zones. You stop and sit in the open spot, and then the quarterback, as soon as you stop, boom, dinks you, and you just get north and south right now. So, I mean, mesh is always and forever will be a solid pillar concept in the pass offense in football in general.
As a former DB, it used to drive me crazy, that and pick routes and anything that takes you off that one guy that you're trying to cover or that zone that you're trying to cover. Just we talk about throwing you off schedule. It throws you off schedule as a DB because it just gives you more things that you have to think about. So I couldn't agree more, and just brings back bad memories just even thinking about those type of routes, because they were no fun to deal with.
Yep. And then you start having fun when you start, releasing the running back wheel through the B gap, and now you're flushing that curl flat guy completely out of the zone, and the guy who's coming from the other side is now running into free space. You start to have fun with it outside of just what base mesh looks like. So yeah, mesh is very much so staple.
Guys, I appreciate you for indulging in my stupid questions of the day as I continue to learn. Whether you anticipated playing teacher or not today, I've learned something pretty cool today. So I appreciate you guys. We got a lot to get into still. We're going to talk about the rest of the college football landscape and what you do in a bye week, especially in an early bye week as we continue on in the show. But first, let me tell you about some of our friends. And first, let me tell you about TrueMark Financial Credit Union. You saw about our TrueMark pickleball tournament this past weekend. It was a lot of fun for everybody that was able to come out and show some support for not just the pickleball tournament, but for financial literacy in the community as well. And TrueMark doesn't just stop at those tournaments. Let's say you're traveling to a game. You want to get up to State College and get to a game, or maybe you're going to hit the road. A lot of really cool road games this year. One of the places I've always wanted to visit was Camp Randall and go to Wisconsin. It would be really, really fun to get out there to see a game. But with TrueMark Financial, it is really easy to keep track of your spending on their mobile app, because the mobile app allows you to access your account anytime from anywhere. You can check your balances, view your transactions, make transfers. So basically what you're able to do is know how much money you have, know if you had any fraudulent charges or anything like that. You can make transfers if you're looking to maybe upgrade your seat and get a better seat than what you anticipated getting on the road. Plus, you can add all of your cards to your mobile wallet for easy in-store and online purchases. But TrueMark doesn't stop there. If you're looking to buy a home, financial mortgage specialists are able to offer you guidance on loan options and terms. And guys, as somebody who is kind of just dipping their toe into the home buying process just a little bit, I got to be honest, there's a ton of things that I had absolutely no idea existed in the home buying experience, and I am lost at times. But TrueMark Financial has helped me along the way. They've helped me assess my credit, my finances, and kind of determine what our borrowing capacity is for our first home. TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender. For more information, go to TrueMarkFinancial.com/PHLY. And when you do have that home, you are going to need Ace Home Hardware and Home Services, because if you're anything like me, well, I have absolutely zero skills with homework and home repairs. So if you've got a leaky pipe or anything, maybe your coolant, maybe your AC went, your heater went, as we get to the winter months, your heat is going to be important. At Ace Hardware Home Services, they are around the block with everything that you need to fix your problem, including the right person to do the job. If you've got a faucet that's leaky and you haven't fixed it in over a year, they got a person for that. If you need your AC fixed, they've got a person for that as well. Because they're not just the helpful hardware folks, they are also the helpful home service and repair folks. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at www.acehardwarehomeservices.com to get you started on your next project. Guys, are any of you good at home repairs? Because I am like the worst home repair guy in the history of the world. I am thankful every day my father-in-law knows what he's doing, because I am terrible at it.
We're in the same boat, man. We are in the same. Unless Jason can fix stuff, I think we're in trouble.
I can do like the IKEA builds and stuff like that, but when it comes to like a home repairs, man, that's where I need to grow as a man, for sure. I need to grow.
I don't even know about the IKEA builds, because the books are 40 pages, the words are this big, and you got 700 pieces to put together. I don't even know if I could do that.
Yeah, I mean, those are projects, I can't lie. Like, they're so tedious and annoying, and sometimes the instruction manual doesn't have everything perfect or every step, on there and stuff of that nature. But normally I can, at least from a common sense standpoint, figure things out. But when it comes to like the home repair, plumbing's messed up, AC's messed up, I'm not the guy to call right now. Like I said, when it comes to the man department, that is definitely where I need to grow as a man.
Well, I'm glad that we're kind of all in lockstep there, because I don't want to feel like I'm lacking in being able to fix things in my home. One of the things that could be fixed, maybe get fixed along the bye weekend. So guys, before we get into the exact sciences behind a bye, was curious your guys' thoughts. Is a week 3 bye? Now, Jason, I know you said it was kind of coming at a good time. Is a week 3 bye a weird bye? Like, it seems like it's so early in the year. Like, Adam, you said there's no preseason, so you're kind of hitting the ground, hoping you're hitting the ground running in week 1. Is the week 3 bye kind of a weird time for teams to have a bye?
I look at it from the perspective, even just as a student athlete, sometimes people forget, these guys are going to school too. And school has started, you're still you've been going hard with football, and you haven't really had of course, we concentrate on school, but it gives you like a nice break to just kind of level set everything. Like, all right, let me get my class straight. Let me make sure I'm good, and like everything outside of football. So although the bye week is great for, you know, resetting and getting yourself right on the football field, I think even more so is nice just to kind of get everything outside of football settled down and really hunker in for the fall semester. Because I know, you know, when I was playing, we only had one bye week, and it was typically towards the middle of the year. And that's when I would take my time to like catch up on everything I need to catch up on. You know, even, you know, maybe get home a little bit, see my friends and family. So all those things I think are better, makes us better football players, because, you know, you got your rocks at, you know, at home, you know, your family, your friends, everything else. And that just makes you a better football player on the field. So it's a long-winded way of saying, I don't think there's ever really a bad time for a bye week, but you know, if it gives you some time to heal the body and heal the mind, it's a great thing all around.
Yeah, I would just speak on just from a solely football perspective. You know, like as a player, like I used to hate anytime we'd have an early bye, whether it's NFL or in college, because it almost feels like a waste of a week. Now, I will say this. I do think that the result of your last game matters a lot more when it comes to an early bye week compared to a late bye week. Like a late bye week, no matter how you guys played, you could have got the mess kicked out of you. Like it's time to rest. You know, like the guys need rest. When you're in week 8, week 9, week 10 of the season, like guys are banged up. You got injuries here and there. Maybe that 1 week is the difference between one guy being able to play in the next game or not. When you have it early in the season, you don't got a whole lot of dings and guys banged up. Yeah, training camp just happened, but at least you had a little time to kind of get your bodies back from training camp. When you have it early in the year, and especially when you're coming off a performance that wasn't necessarily up to your standards, the bye week can almost just be nothing but an extra work week. And as a player, that's when it can suck a little bit, because now you're just doing bonus practices. It feels like you're back in camp again. You're just doing, you know, back to good on good, 7-on-7, 11-on-11 team. You know, you're not preparing for any specific looks at that point in time. Maybe, you know, they might get an extra bonus day to prepare for Kent State or whatever the case may be. But if I were the Penn State coaches, I wouldn't really be looking to snag an extra bonus practice week to focus on Kent State. I would really use that extra bonus practice to be focused on us, our fundamentals, our scheme, perfecting what we do, and kind of just focusing internally. So the early bye week can suck. And I think for Penn State, it's not going to be the most fun one. I think it's going to be another work week for these guys. And I think they need it.
So, Adam, you bring up, you know, the one thing I think a lot of times we forget is the student portion of the student athlete. You know, is it a weird like break in routine? If you know, like I know you obviously practice throughout the week, but when you have like when you got a big game coming up, and you're like, I got to imagine it's hard at times to go to math class or to go to, you know, your history class or whatever, even if it's into your major and you like what you're doing. I got to imagine it's hard at times to like 100% give your focus to broadcasting 409 or something like that when you know you got a game on Saturday. Does it give you that opportunity to kind of catch up and play student again a little bit?
Yeah, that's, you know, kind of what I was alluding to. And I was saying, we were talking earlier, I graduated back in 2005. So, you know, I played under Coach Paterno and Jason. I don't know if they still did it, but when I was there, yeah, like Todd Colker and the squad, they would have like people walking around to make sure you was actually in class.
Oh, yeah. So, we got the class checkers, man.
So the class checkers was no joke. So you didn't want to be that guy like to get caught out not being in class, because that also had some ramifications with it as far as awareness training and all that stuff that comes along with it. So, but I say I still remember that bye week just being so helpful to your point, being able to reset a little bit, you know, put a little bit more focus in the classes, maybe catch up on some schoolwork that maybe I need to catch up on. So from that standpoint, again, stuff has probably changed tremendously from when I was in college to even from when Jason was in college till now. So it's a different dynamic, but the bye week, and for me, you know, we were able to go home. You know, I lived in Jersey, so it was like a 3-hour drive. So I was able to go home a little bit, kind of get back with the family, see some of my friends from home, and just it centered me being able to do that every once in a while. So it was helpful from that standpoint.
And I think like what people don't understand is just the fact that When you're a student athlete, your entire schedule is based off of your sport, from the way you can schedule classes to the study hall that you have to do after, practice, the study hall hours and things of that nature. But like all classes, their schedules are all just based on regular students. When teachers have their like extra study hall hours where you can come in and, get some one-on-one time with your teacher and go through problems. Like I studied economics and finance when I was in school. So like I did a ton of math word problems, a lot of finance problems, things of that
God
nature.
bless, man, because that is not a fun.
Oh man, I did not make college very fun for myself. But like, there's a ton of math and things of that nature that you have.
Oh, we lost him.
We lost.
Talk about the ultimate cliffhanger. What a story.
He's an economist. I didn't know that. And Jason, and that just tells you about Penn State student athletes, where that's what drew me to Penn State is when you go there, you're expected to take something. Not all of us go to play in the NFL, but when you graduate from Penn State, you'll be prepared for life after football. And clearly, Jason is well prepared, like many of the guys that have come through there.
Well, I think that I at times maybe we get a little. I hate to use this phrase, but like we get a little bit culty with our. It was a great school and we had great opportunities and all this stuff. And I get it. People probably are tired of hearing it at some point. But the preparation for being an adult, being a well-versed human being, like my life experiences changed enormously after 4 years, right? I met new people. I understood new mindsets and perspectives. And I think that that's one of the underlying values of what I think Penn State has done for all of us is allow us to become the adults that we were. I walked in as a kid. I was a little immature. We all were at 18, right? Yep. But I walked in as a kid, and I walked out much closer to the man I am today than I was when I walked in. And I think that that's a testament to the culture, the pride of academics, the pride of becoming yourself at a school like that, where I always talk about it's like the biggest little school or the littlest big school in the world where everybody knows everybody, even though it's 40,000 kids. I think that shared experience that you and Jason and myself have just like kind of talked about is pretty universal for a lot of Penn State graduates.
Oh, Tyler, I think you hit the nail on the head. Regardless if you're an athlete or not, we all, go through the same journey and experiences. We all come from various towns from across the country, small, big. Some of us come from cities. And to be able to go to this university and interact with people that you probably would have never met in life, but for the standpoint that you both are attending the same university, is a special experience. And I know we're all biased because we had that opportunity to spend those 4 or 5 years on campus, enjoying all the aspects of college life. But as we were talking about earlier, next year, it'll be 20 years that I graduated from Penn State. And I still, miss those days each and every day because those were some of the best days of my life. Not only, on the football field, I played in 5 games, but it was all those experiences outside of football that really made me the person I am today.
Jason is back.
Sorry about that.
For everybody,
for a minute, got disconnected.
Little bit of behind the scenes before the show started. Jason said, "Hey, I'm hoping my computer holds up, the battery life." You got through 51 of a 60-minute podcast.
Yeah, right.
Give you a lot of credit.
I was just talking about the schedules. And, just how like student schedules are really all based on regular students. And as a student athlete, your entire schedule, whether it's classes, study hall hours, things of that nature, it's all built around football, around whatever sport you play. So like when that bye week happens and you get that extra time, like that was my time to kind of check in with all my professors, go in and really get a deeper understanding and knowledge of, what I was missing out on homework, or maybe if I didn't love a grade that I had in a specific class, what I could do, what I could work on, things of that nature. Because a lot of those times, those TA hours that teachers have, or just the extra study hall hours that teachers have and allow, students to come in and kind of talk to them, you really are always at practice, or you normally have something else to do. So you're for the most part never available for those kinds of things. So I think that bye week kind of allows you to kind of get back to just being a regular student, like Adam said, and
kind of just tying up all loose ends and making sure that once you come out of that bye week, you can really be focused on ball and doing what you need to do to help your team win.
So I know we only got a couple minutes left. Focusing on the football side of it for a little bit, you talked about the bonus practices. You talked about kind of getting back to the detail oriented function of practice. What is the what do you think for this team specifically is the maybe a couple of keys that you're going to focus on, or you would if you were on the coaching staff focus on for this bye week coming up?
If I'm the defense, it's tackling is number one. We gotta stop throwing the shoulders. We gotta wrap up. So I think the cool thing about bye week and even like the beginning of training camp, like those practices, like all the drills and everything is so broken down, like all the way stripped down to the basics. Like you can have practices like that or have periods during bye week where you kind of get back to that and you're stripping things back down to a base level, relearning, reestablishing, okay, this is how we do things, this is how we tackle, this is how we wrap up. It's your time to be able to slow things down. Because once you get out of training camp and you're into the week's preparation, like you may have a period or two before you get into scheme install and get into running plays against, Bowling Green's look or Kent State's looks or whatever you're going to get and stuff like that. But that's it. You're only going to have one or two periods. After that, it's like, okay, Wednesday, you're doing first down, second down, run, pass game. Okay, after that, transition to third down. All right, now 7-on-7, now team. Like there's not a lot of time to be doing simple turnover drills or do a ton of special teams drills where you're breaking down how to do things, where you're breaking down alignment and assignment and things of that nature. There's not a whole lot of time for that because by then what's expected of you is that everything that we hit in the meeting rooms, that all gets hit in the meeting rooms. You got to be able to retain that information, go to practice and apply it right now because we only have 3 or 4 days until we're about to go and play this game. So I think a bye week kind of allows you to, like I said, strip down all those things down to a base level and kind of reset the standard of how you do things.
Yeah, I agree with Jason. I mean, tackling, I think, is the number one thing we want to try to work on. But also, things just like cleaning up the penalties. I know that's not it. That's just something that I believe the coaches will stress and really hone in on as they go through this bye week. Because those are, I don't want to say it's simple, but those are things that we can really fix immediately just from a mental standpoint. It's just, staying on top of that. And then offensive wise, look at the West Virginia game. Trey Wallace, I think, got 8 or 9 targets, and there wasn't a lot of distribution of the ball beyond Trey Wallace in the first game. Then the second game, Tyler Warren got 8 or 9 targets, and there wasn't a lot of distribution amongst other targets throughout the game. So maybe, seeing how they can get the ball distributed more amongst the various, pass catchers as they go into these upcoming weeks, because, when you get to the meat of the schedule, these teams are going to be able to take away your top target. So you're going to have to be able to, Drew's going to have to be able to, go to his second, third, fourth option to be able to make plays. So I'm sure they'll work on it, and I'm sure that's something they're currently working on as they go through the bye week.
Yeah, and also just a time to go through like procedural stuff. It can be procedural from a standpoint of going through specific situations. Let's say 10 seconds left on the clock, you're on the 40-yard line, you need a chunk play, but it needs to go out of bounds. Okay, we're gonna demonstrate a quick 3-play series of how we want that to look before we get to a field goal. It could be a procedure standpoint of, okay, we have 8 seconds left on the clock. We're gonna run the play. We're gonna go for the end zone. If we don't get it, now we called it when we're at Penn State, we called it bonsai. But bonsai is when you're rushing the field goal unit onto the field very, very fast. And that's a procedural thing that can land in a penalty if it's not done fast enough and not done with the sense of urgency that it needs to be done with. And those plays, although they aren't things that you practice all the time or every single day, they are things that at the end of games, when they are called upon and they are needed, they can be the difference between winning and losing a game. So I think retouching on all the procedural things from that standpoint, whether it's substitutions defensively going from base to nickel, nickel to dime, or from special teams going from safe look on defense, saying who stays in on safe. Okay, returner comes in. All right, one safety's out. All right, which safety's the guy who's going to be leaving? Things of that nature, so you don't have 12 men on the field, and that kind of contributes to cleaning up penalties and just cleaning up things overall.
Well, guys, we got to get Adam to baseball practice. We're making him a baseball man, one practice at a time. But Penn State does beat Bowling Green 34-27 this past weekend. Adam, you brought up different receivers and where possession and looks are going to go. That's something, if you guys don't mind, I'd love to dive into in kind of further detail next week because we do have a bye this week coming up, so it won't be any game to talk about, kind of get more into schematics a little bit. I would love to chat with you guys about Julian Fleming specifically and what his role is going to be moving forward with this team. But guys, it was a lot of fun as always. Thank you so much to all of our diehards for hanging out with us today. You can find this episode on YouTube. It'll be up on any podcast platforms shortly. And of course, you can hang out with us next Tuesday at 4 p.m. as well. So for the guys to my right on the screen, Adam Taliaferro and Jason Cabinda, I'm Tyler Zulli saying thank you so much for hanging out with us on this All Nittany Lion podcast. And we will talk to you all next Tuesday at 4 p.m. right here on PHLY.
We all silly like the mayor.